My name is Richard Vosseller. I'm from Virginia. I'm from Fairfax County, and I grew up about 5 miles from right here. And I started pushing ink around more, and I started thinking about the ocean and thinking about waves and where skating comes from and all of that kind of thing. This idea of moving paintings into 3 dimensions using the modes of sort of residential construction. I started bringing in the idea of aviation, the idea of all of the curved things, the ideas of skate ramps or pools and that kind of stuff where you know, the top height is going to be roughly 14 feet at most, so you'll stand about this tall. The object itself probably represents, maybe, I don't know, 20% of the actual work itself. There are models, there are drawings, there's sketchbooks, there's books, there's notes to yourself, there's CAD models on the computer, video and that kind of thing, which is why a lot of the projects I'm doing, I tend to take a lot of video usually, because at the end of it, it becomes about the process of making the thing rather than the thing itself. So this is the gallery where the work is going to be placed. And this is where, I guess the curator and I were talking about putting the work itself. So it's just a way for me to, envision how it can be. Coming from a background of working in construction and that kind of thing, a lot of times you're working with blueprints. And so sort of seeing how things are going to be placed or seeing what size you have, or keep reminding yourself, oh, it has to be this high, it has to be that wide, it can't exceed that, this is where the ceiling drops here. So this is kind of part and parcel for making work of this kind, is that you can't operate, as much as I would like to, you can't operate just like a, you can't just make a painting, you have to take in and angle in all kinds of different things. It's sort of like being, a fabricator. It's sort of like working in construction. You have to be an artist as well. You have to keep, the parameters of the size of spaces of things in mind as well. So it's kind of like wrapping your brain around every side of something, kind of being like the manager. I tend to call them projects now, actually. They're not pieces anymore. The models, those are pieces, and that's a piece, but this is a project. And so, the project all has to work out, especially because I'm building it off-site, and I have, a week to install. These are some of the earliest drawings for the project itself, because what I was thinking about was the places that I would go skating. And this is way back in the day, so these are skate spots that we used to go to, and we being me and all of my friends, many still are. I mean, my best friends growing up, we all skated. That's what we did. And so, the different little spots. And I was thinking about, well, if I'm going to make an object that people have to physically skateboard on, and what should it look like? It should incorporate some of those things that I remember enjoying so much. The banks, the sort of helix shape of that place, that kind of thing. So these are actually some of the earliest ones where it began, and modeling things out from there. I mean, where are the rules? Who wears the uniform? Who do you root for? I don't know, and I find that interesting. It's about sort of personal expression, physical personal expression, and I think that you roll through the city, and all of these things were never built to skateboard. That was never the purpose of them. In fact, as anybody would tell you who ever skated, you oftentimes got chased away. Because skateboarding has a tendency to ruin things. And so that the sense of the way you look at the world, changes, because when you're skating, you're always looking, well, can I skate that? Can I see, hey, look at that bank, we could skate that, or hey, look at, this piece of the building there. And I think that you start looking at architecture, you start looking at objects, and you look at them through a physical way. Like, how can I, play on that? How can I mess around with that? What can I do with that? Rather than just looking at architecture as, oh, this keeps rain off of my head, or, it tends to shift the way you look at the world. So.